Hello! Welcome to another mini vlog. This is gonna be just some of activities that I have done in the past week. So the bigger one was a painting for a digital card. So I thought that it would be nice for February to have a frog because it's a leap year, so we have a longer February. So I went with a leaping frog for a digital card, which will be available on my Patreon. And for non-subscribers, I believe it's going to be about $3, while for subscribers, it's free. And here we are with the process of painting and, using very vivid colors for it. I usually paint all these, most of these cards really with, let's see, in this case scenario, it was definitely an acrylic paint, but I usually paint with traditional media and then do any touch-ups on it digitally. I did also got a little bit into crayons because I found it much easier to add on details on almost any media, including, which is a new discovery of mine, on canvas, in comparison to like pencils. Also, if you notice the other thing, like a plant, I wanted to show it like a sort of like a star, really like a star type of plant, which is half bitten and the frog is leaping away from it. I have a big thing for stars, but also, the frog that is not feeling satiated. I do know that I struggle with drawing frogs. It took me a while to even get the face, and I don't think it's right. The next, I'm gonna just show you some smaller crafts I did. So I made these matchboxes the other day, and they are sort of old stylish simplistic designs that I really like, and I just want to show them off. So this one is very simple. It's a matchbox mystery kit. It's just a little flashlight on it, and it says you found a clue. There's a little magnifying glass in it, and a little piece of a puzzle that basically says this is a clue. The entire idea was like, you get a clue but you don't really still have a clue. So you remain clueless. Next one. So this one is like little pyramid with a little sand monster, and is Matchbox Explorer kit, and it says beware of traps. There's a little rope and a hat, and it has a little fall style inside that just says click. These are mostly made of items that I already had made of clay for a card game, so I'm really just reusing them. Let's do the next one. This one says navigation kit and has a little ship on it. And the card says now you know your way, and there's a little compass and a map inside. Next one is Matchbox Ouchie Fix with a little heart and a little hammer beside. And this one just says emergency hearts, and there's a little first aid kit and the clay hearts. And the last one, so far the favorite, and I might make another one, is Matchbox Breakfast Kit. The top looks like a little bit like a bacon. And it says, I made you breakfast. And there's a coffee cup, egg, a piece of bread, and 2 sausages. Okay. Hello, good morning. We're gonna do a mini book wrap up for December, January. First book was Wishing Game. I think a lot of people were reading it. It's about, I believe, inheritance and sort of like an inheritance game. The mystery and the puzzle inside it. However, I didn't quite enjoy it. I think the main character, if I remember correctly, was like a writer of children's stories or something of that sort, who was leaving these puzzles for this inheritance. If I remember correctly, it feels like it's been a while. But I didn't quite like catch. It was feeling fragmented first, and the second thing, I didn't quite catch the necessarily like visual clues. There are like, I don't know if you can see, there are like little clocks on the beginning of the chapters, and I'm like, I don't know if it was supposed to be a clue. I like that as an idea, but the clues were like too difficult to decipher as a reader. So of course the character struggled as well. I think it was an author who wrote something like Clock Island. So the clock clearly is like very important symbol in the book, and there's so multiple chapters named, I believe, in them. Yeah, we have Clock Island like map in the beginning as well. So I don't know if I'm missing some sort of context. So you might be very much aware I was reading the series of the new release that followed the new season of Hilda on Netflix, and you know, you might choose one or the other. I did enjoy them. They were a very quick read for me. So it was kind of pleasant, especially to do it as a reading stream, because I felt like I've done so much in that like one day. I finished all of them, I think, in one day, or at least 2 of them. I think the biggest surprise, and I mentioned that on the stream, was that we finally meet Hilda's dad, who basically didn't exist in any of the other books or seasons. So here we are. And even the friends say like, oh, we thought he's dead. So yeah, here we are. And they do let us know that this is the final season, as well as is the final books in the series. Oh, here we go. Bookshops and Bone Dust is a second book of authors who wrote Legends and Lattes, and so basically I had very high anticipations for it, because Legends and Lattes made quite big deal and basically started the genre of cozy fantasy, so it's another cozy fantasy. This book, I believe, sets a timeline 20 years before the events of Legends and Lattes, and it's basically, we follow the same orc character when she got, as we know, she was sort of dungeoning before making a coffee shop. So she got injured, and while healing from that injury, she was working in a bookshop. So definitely sort of, I found that I read another bookshop fantasy with similar premise that was supposed to be cozy fantasy, and I just felt it's much harder to write than coffee shops, and it didn't have quite the same extent for me, or same cozy vibes, or even the business side of things. It didn't feel quite the same. It didn't feel like a sort of a business novel, so it sort of let me down a little bit. So here we are. I think I prefer Legends and Lattes, and I think I'm probably gonna not even keep this one. But you know, it's sort of, it's different in its own way. is sort of, you can't go with the same expectations. That's what I want. Right, and we obviously in the bookshop, we do mention, like in coffee shop, we knew that it was a new thing for fantasy world. Like when our character made the coffee shop, none of the other creatures understood what it is. While in bookshop world, we know that bookshops exist, but we mostly sell scrolls and maps, and fiction is not as big in it. So it wasn't, again, it wasn't the same impact, I would say. So we were mostly dwelling in sort of views of fiction. Next one is the Kamogawa Food Detectives. This was pick of the month for January for my book club on Patreon. It's very light read, very short. It sort of reminded me of Before Coffee Gets Cold, written by a Japanese author, had similar vibes, some sort of, you know, first of all, environment is a restaurant. In premise, it is about family who run a restaurant that specifically aims to recreate dishes of memories. So like dishes from long time ago, for example, wife who passed away made specific dish, or, you know, travel with father, tasted some sort of dish somewhere. Very vague descriptions of customers, and basically the cook or the kitchen tries to recreate exact same taste, which wasn't. Now again, Before Coffee Gets Cold, I think was a bit more immersive than this one. I think there could have been a bit more slow down on the food. It wasn't as descriptive. I read some entries on this in my sort of review for book club or quick chat for book club. But I still enjoyed it, and it's still very quick, so you can definitely read on a day or on a single trip. It's separated, I think, in about 4 chapters or something like that, which is 4 stories or 4 different dishes, which was very consumable and can be read separately as short stories or essays. Counting by Sevens is a children's book. Doesn't look very happy from the cover, but I picked it from the shelf that said that it's most highly acclaimed from teachers, I believe. So that's basically says all about it. I thought it was the child called Willow. She was too smart for her age and was told to be cheating because she was achieving too high of a grades or making not, you know, enough mistakes, let's say. And basically, I felt that she wasn't quite a child. She having had the childhood-like attitude. So for me, it felt a bit sad in that sense. Because from children's story, I kind of want a bit more happy vibes, let's say. And obviously then this lies into like literary fiction, but middle grade, which is not my favorite genre. But because of the same factor, there's a lot of fact putting in this book and so on, and showing how Willow is smart. I can see why teachers like it, but I don't think it would be as popular with kids. Next one is, I read John Harrison Jigs and Reels, which is another short story collection. So that was audiobook, and she always voices over her own audiobooks, and it gives very wonderful vibe. It always feels like very modern to a sense, so I picked this up because it looked like very festive, like New Year type of vibes. I don't think it was particularly festive stories, but it still kept to modern like before, mentioning sort of like things like Twitter and social media, LARPing. So it does feel fairly like with the times, let's say. And she has wonderful stories, mostly, so it does fall into more modern era. She also does a lot of stories in her other books that are more like mythology based, and this one was so much less mythology based. There wasn't even a single story that would be drawing, I believe, from that view, but I still kind of enjoyed it. My favorites are probably lying closer to mythology based stories for her. Yeah, still very fast read. I am still finishing, but I'm so close to finishing Iron Flame. because it basically took entire January for me to finish it. It's quite a thick book. I have it as an audiobook, and I think it was like over, oh gosh, I can't even say how many hours. It was definitely over 24 hours of audiobook. And basically I'm on the last couple hours, and it's the second part of Fourth Wing, and as you know, possibly because it was a very popular book, it's a high fantasy book about school of like dragon riders, and Fourth Wing really was big, I think, last year. So this is just follows our characters throughout into second part, and sort of a little bit of political things happening. It's very immersive read in comparison with so much is actually happening in the book. We have political side, we have a lot of action, we have the school side in general, we also have the romance going on, so like there's constantly something's going on, but even then it's very smooth read. So I do enjoy it. Next one is a graphic novel collection, I would say. It's Mighty Name based on Critical Role, Mighty Name Origins. So this specific volume collection takes in Chester's, Yasha's, Caleb's, and Not the Brave stories. So art is beautiful. The stories are very short, I would say. So you get to see the glimpse of these characters. So this is based on a campaign of D&D of Critical Role, which is, I believe, second campaign. And the stories show what were the characters, where they originated from before we met them in the campaign. So it feels like a very short glimpse of an actual let's say scenario, so you don't get the like entire fully fleshed plot necessarily. You get to see like either big trauma of their life or why they ended on this particular step of their life, let's say. So it could definitely be expanded, and again, it doesn't take all the characters in. I'm very sure, because some of the character graphic novels are still being released, I'm very sure we're probably gonna make a like volume 2 once we have all the stories out. Right, I picked this one because specifically, I think I mentioned in one of my blogs, because I really like Not the Brave and Chester's characters. I think I still really much like the Chester story as well. It's sort of more happy as Chester is. Everything else was a bit of a trauma in it, let's say. Volume 4 and the final volume, so this is the deluxe edition, The Girl from the Other Side. So again, it binds multiple chapters which can be bought separately. And I think I mentioned this, I felt that volume 3 was then, and it's very suitable for then. So it was surprising to see what we're gonna put in the volume 4. Looking back now as an entire story is a little bit too depressing, even though the pictures are very cute. And this particular one was also very sort of sad, but it gave explanations in general. In most of all of the other volumes, let's say in most of the other chapters, we see things happening, but we don't know really why up to the end, really. So this one explains exactly what characters are, why are they like this. So it's literally all explanation dumped into one, I would say, very simply. But I did enjoy it, but at the same time, in overall the series is a bit too sad, and if I were to reread them, I would be a bit resistant. Space Boy, a second volume. I only read the first one, of course, and second chapter here. Is basically just continuing the story. I can remind you roughly, because I might have mentioned it the first part in the other wrap-up. It was about a girl, I believe her name is Amy, who was living in a colony in the space, but because her dad messed up at his work, they were sent back to Earth, and basically cryogenically frozen till we make that travel back, so she stays young, though many years might have passed, and comes to the new modern world. And then she meets this boy, basically. That's where we are at in this volume not a lot have happened. They sort of maybe would say bonded a bit more, because the first one was more of just a meeting point. So yeah, and I think I'm looking forward to read a bit more of it. Now, I did the Midwinter Tale, which was actually a Christmas story, very Hallmark-like. I put it in my recommendations for December on my newsletter, because it's not a romantic story, but it has all the Hallmark vibes. The lady comes to this cottage after an old friend, literally old friend, writes to her that he needs someone to look after his cat because he's in the hospital. So yeah, it's kind of very heartwarming, and again, very, very quick read, and you get all the cozy vibes. Then I got this, if you remember, I picked this up for winter as well. Miraculous Sweet Makers at the Frost Fair. It's about two friends from the sort of baker sweet shop family, I guess, sweet shop family. That we talk about gingerbread cookies as well, so like, family. This starts nicely with that sort of cooking and sweets and whatnot, but then we learned that one of these friends, Thomasina, which I felt like it's more of the main character. We get more of her views. Has lost her brother, and her brother is trapped in the like winter kingdom, and actually he's turning into like one of the frost people. But that's and basically we're going to rescue him. That's pretty much what it was about. It didn't quite. It was hard for me to follow, but I was very like busy all the time, so it didn't quite get me quite wasn't quite what I wanted it to be, I guess. I think this is pretty much wraps up December and January for me. It was not a big amount, as I say, it's more of a mini wrap up. There's definitely quite different picks. Depends what you're looking for. Anything from fantasy to more realistic reads. So if you look for big fantasy, and you haven't read it, definitely pick up Fourth Wing. It made very big last year, and I think that says something. If you're looking something more realistic, Kamogawa Food Detectives is another good pick. And obviously, as always, there are plenty of middle grades. There is some graphic novels, which, to say, the Girl from the Other Side is also a graphic novel. So that's about it.